our own study on one technique, cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically changes the output of your brain and autonomic nervous system to the gut. And that does change the microbiome in a positive way.
We've spoken about a number of lifestyle interventions that someone can deploy, about how your gut can improve your brain in terms of minimizing anxiety and other things. What about the other way around, Professor Mayer? What can the brain do for the gut? I'm thinking in terms of mind-body techniques around meditation. What does the research tell us about how we can kind of channel our mental energy into improving our gut health?
There's actually a lot of evidence on that. So the earliest studies about brain-gut interactions came from those interventions like stress, mainly the negative effects, how powerful stress is in changing microbial composition and diversity and the metabolites that they produce. And there's a few studies, not that many, a few that have shown that, like a recent one in Tibetan monks, but also in people that do mindfulness-based stress reduction, that this has a beneficial effect on microbial diversity and composition. I think we're lacking the studies because typically funding agencies don't fund. They fund studies on disease and negative things like stress and how it changes the microbiome in a negative direction, but much less investment in studying, what are the positive effects of but we know, for example, from our own study on one technique, cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically changes the output of your brain and autonomic nervous system to the gut. And that does change the microbiome in a positive way. And
so what is the mechanism by which that change is occurring then?
It's the strong connections our gut has with the brain, mainly through the autonomic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system and the vagus, part of the vagal nerve fibers. There's some role also in terms of cortisol, like the other part of the stress system, but it's much better understood in terms of these nerve pathways that go from the brain to the gut.
And that can change the environment of the gut to encourage the proliferation of beneficial microbiome then, for instance. I'm a layman in this. I'm just trying to get my head around the mechanism by which kind of thinking and meditation can make it a more conducive environment for positive bacteria.
Yeah, that can fundamentally change the habitat of the microbes. And also, we know that the neurotransmitters that are used by these pathways from the brain can also affect directly some microbes, like norepinephrine can affect directly the gene expression and the behavior of certain microbes, which then change the way they interact with our gut. So there's actually quite a bit of, also human data, probably more human data than we have for the bottom-up signaling. I would say it's a very important part, this mind component and the techniques that we have now that are becoming popular, like the mindfulness-based stress reduction, hypnosis, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some of these therapies becoming available as online therapies, so you don't have to go through the expense of seeing a therapist for several months. When I talked about the holistic therapy, it's definitely targeted at the brain, at the gut, at the same time.